ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for such a special video. I cannot believe this is happening right now. Today, we are taking an early look at INART's 1/6 scale David Corenswet Superman, based off his appearance in the James Gunn-directed 2025 Superman film. Starting the DCU off with a bang, I literally could not be more excited to point a camera at this. Now, before we get stuck in, before we do that, I want to say a massive thank you to the incredibly talented team of artists behind this piece over at INART for trusting me with their baby. There is only one of these in the world right now. This is the master prototype, so I could film a video on it. Just makes this entire thing feel that little bit more special. If you're heading down to the description, popped a link to INART's website down there. And why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as brand new Superman content goes live. Because this is not a final production piece, there's no box. So skipping right over the unboxing segment, don't worry, we'll talk about box art and the unboxing experience when this figure actually comes out, but for today's video, let's just jump straight into accessories, starting off with the goodest boy in 1/6 scale Krypto. Holy shit. This pre-posed Krypto looks absolutely incredible. The fur texture, the flow to it, all the little strands, yes, that stuff does continue underneath the cape, which is wired. We'll come back to the cape in a second. There's some darker shading in certain places to bring out the sculpted fur. Then the painted paw pads, and some individually painted claws up front. But it's the eyes that get me the most. The white around the edges, then the darker shading, the brown for the irises, and the black for the pupils. Hot Toys, they're just painting Krypto's eyes black. He looks soulless, he looks demonic. This is how you paint dogs' eyes correctly in this scale. The nose even has this really fine, grain to it. And there's some leather grain on the collar, which is a separate piece, real metal loop connecting this S shield to the front of it. Check out how shiny that is, by the way. And back to the cape. We've got this separate 3D S shield that's got some texture on it, and the cape is wired along the edges and at the bottom. But because the collar is a separate piece, you can rotate the entire thing and move the cape off to one side if you want to. But it's not just all of the detail. They excel at really fine sculpted detail with textures. It's the proportions. Nothing looks off about Krypto. Do I wish he had his own base? Still, yes, I said that in the preview video. I'm sticking with that. But if you've got Supes hovering above the base on the flight pole, then, there's plenty of room underneath him for Krypto to be standing on it. He's just a feast for the eyes. I don't want to stop shooting Krypto. Not just because I need to send this back to INART, but he's beautiful. Anyway, let's move on to the base. I was pretty hard on this base in the preview video, saying that it was quite simple. Now that I see it in hand, there is nothing simple about it. The snow texture, it looks like snow has been collecting on some sort of platform in the Fortress of Solitude, even around the edges, the way they've done that. Then at the front, the little snow deposits in between the crystals, the S shield, we'll get to what this is made of in a moment, then the darker blue shading on the other side, even around the back. There's some white speckling on the crystals at the back too, so it looks like snow is still falling. But this crystal right here, you can remove it, then there's a translucent flight pole, it securely connects into the base, you can plug Superman into the top of it, and that means you don't have to rely on stupid waist clamps, thank goodness. You all know I cannot stand frickin' waist clamps. INART's solution to get Superman flying on his base, it's my favorite of any of the things 1/6 scale companies have been doing. If Hot Toys' magnet solution works, that will be interesting, but for right now, translucent flight pole is the way to go. But the translucent blue plastic that they've cast this base out of, I was so hoping this was going to work. Bringing in one of my mini studio lights. If you place a light source around underneath this base, it glows. It looks like it's activated. The Fortress of Solitude is doing something. So I will figure out a way to have a light source hitting the back of this display base in my collection when this piece is released. It's always interesting seeing stuff in person versus online. We'll be going properly in depth on both of these head sculpts throughout the course of the video, but for right now, first impressions, they're very different. I mean, yes, of course they are, because one has closed eyes and the other doesn't, but it's not like they've used this sculpt as the base, then they've just added some closed eyelids over the top of the eye sockets. The mouth is different. The wrinkles around the mouth are different. And even what they've done with the hair, how it's been sculpted and painted, slightly different between both sculpts. All you need to know for right now is we get two head sculpts, two different expressions. Cheeky little cape clip, it's not really an accessory, is it? It's more so part of his outfit, but we get two of them. Wired cape and drape cape. I wish this was standard for all 1/6 scale Superman figures, because it just opens up so many more possibilities when it comes to posing. This is the wired one, already got the drape cape installed on Supes, sturdy wires along the bottom and along the edges. The S-shield isn't 100% accurate shape, size, and detail-wise, but they've got time to tweak that. I trust they will. It attaches in the exact same way, using the same mechanism as their BVS Supes. I never had a problem with that, so we'll see how it goes with this piece. People were freaking out when they saw the flight pose boots, thinking that, oh no, there's no ankle articulation with the standard boots. Incorrect. They're made of soft PVC plastic. It's thick enough that it should withstand posing. We'll confirm how much range we get out of the prototype Supes ankle joints in the articulation segment, but don't freak out. There will be ankle articulation even with the standard boots. And so far, my biggest takeaway with this figure is texture. The leather grain, the stitching, the zipper down the back, the track and the zip at the top, then the tread on the underside. These boots, they look accurate. Oh, and the wrinkling as well, of course. They're probably some of the most detailed 1/6 scale boots that I've ever seen from any company. I know, it sounds like I'm just glazing everything because INART sent me this to make a video on it. I promise you that's not the case. You don't have to believe me, but just look at these things. Form your own opinion. How real that leather grain is. And it's textural too. You can feel all of it. The rippling back here, the wrinkling. How natural that foot position is. I have been asking for flight pose boots with Superman figures for years. And INART, they've just got and done it. Oh man, INART, y'all are cooking today. Lastly, when it comes to hands, not just the gestures, the array of gestures, pretty normal. It's the sculpt work and the paint applications, the cuticles, the super fine skin texture. It looks almost like there's meant to be hair on his fingers, like those little dots right there. The vein work on the back of his hands, the wrinkling on the inside of them. They're impressing me with something as standard as 1/6 scale hands, but that's what we've come to expect from INART at this stage. Same thing with the two closed fists. With these, it's the baggy looking skin that gets me the most. For certain sections, when you make a fist, the skin buckles and wrinkles, and they've captured all of that in 1/6 scale. But only one gripping hand. He doesn't have anything to hold anyway. The fingers are soft enough you can pry them open and pop something in there without having to grab a hairdryer to heat this up first. And then two of the classic INART relaxed open palm hands. Fingers curled in, thumb hanging down the front. That is one natural looking gesture. What we're going to do now is get Superman himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. How is this happening right now? How are they letting me do this? It feels wrong. It feels like I shouldn't have my hands on this piece. But here he is. And he perfectly captures everything that I was hoping he would based off what I saw on screen in that movie. The vibrant color tone for the suit. People were saying it looked washed out and it wasn't accurate. In person, in hand, hopefully it's coming through on camera, that is not the case. This looks like what I saw on screen. Then the proportions. He's big, he's bulky, but he's not cut and ripped. That comes across as accurate. And the head sculpt, even from a distance, that is David Corenswet, 2AT. There are a couple of things they need to tweak and adjust before we get to the final production piece, but based off what I'm seeing right now, they're already onto another winner. INART, y'all cooked with this head sculpt. Up close and personal, that looks exactly like David Corenswet. Right there. The likeness is a 10 or 11 or 12. I don't know. From every angle. That one right there, that's David. Front on, still David because of the way the ears stick out and the hairstyle and the defined jawline. From below, still him. From above. And something that didn't come through with the promo pics for me, but it is very obvious in person, is there's a hopefulness to the expression. He doesn't look Henry Cavill-esque. That's what people were saying based off the promo pics. There is a seriousness depending on how you tilt the sculpt, but I am getting that David Corenswet Superman vibe from this head sculpt. Still him, even from the side. As I turn it, that still looks like David. The hairline, how they feathered that edge with the individual painted strands, and the eyebrows, the painted eyelashes, the subtle 5 o'clock shadow, the vein work. Can you see that vein just above his right eyebrow? The life to the eyes with the vein work there too. How piercing that blue is when light bounces off the surface. How glossy the eyes are. The S-curl is a separate piece of plastic. The line work on his lips. I'm just naming all of the stuff I love about this head sculpt because I do. I love it. But there's one thing. There's one thing that I think they need to work on. This seam right here. They need to move it up along the edge of the underside of the ear, cut it down along the edge of his jawline, then it will be a lot less noticeable. From most angles, you can't see it anyway, but from the side, as you start to turn the head sculpt, there is a bit of a bump out at the base of it. It's a small thing, it is a thing, but it's something that they can work on. There's a certain messiness to David's hair as Supes, and they've captured that, how the strands go in all kinds of different directions up top, the part on one side with that little strand sticking out. Around the back, there's also a lot of flow to it. There's longer strands and shorter ones. This is a truly impressive head sculpt, and we've not even started to move the eyes yet. So you know what? Let's do that. And to do that, you literally just remove the head sculpt. It's on a height adjustable cylindrical neck connector, just like the Batman and BVS Superman, so this is consistent for INART. You can push it all the way down, giving him a more boxy look, or you can pull it up, accentuating his neck, which then extends the side of his jawline because his neck does taper as it gets to the top. I like it sitting up slightly higher, but it's really going to be up to you. For the first time, maybe ever, I think I prefer this head sculpt with the eyes facing straight forward. It still looks gorgeous. That is David to a T. Head tilted forward, head tilted back. He's like, come on, Lois, what are you talking about? This sculpt is versatile in the sense that when you move the eyes off to the side, he looks more serious. But front on, you get that full of joy vibe, and that's what I want to capture with my David Corenswet suits. Eyes looking straight forward again, a bit of white underneath them, but nothing crazy, so looking up a touch. This head sculpt is glorious. No matter how long I look at it, no matter how long I film it, I'm not losing interest in this head sculpt. That's how good it is. Let's move on to the closed eye sculpt. I'm curious to see what that looks like on the body. What an interesting head sculpt. It's not my favorite of the two because for David Corenswet Supes, this isn't a spoiler by the way, he never does this. Fly up and charge up in the sun whilst aura farming at the same time. That's more of a Henry Cavill thing to do, so I don't associate it with this version of Superman. I'll be popping this head sculpt back in the box and using the other one as my main go-to David Corenswet sculpt. Detail is still outstanding though, the wrinkling for the mouth. Then we've got the 5 o'clock shadow and the sculpted eyebrows and the hairline, the separate S-curl. All of it is there. Just the other head sculpt that's calling me. There it is, back to the standard head sculpt. He looks alive. That looks like a real person. As though he wants to come to life and say, hey buddy, eyes up here. That head sculpt is worth the price of admission alone. I'm noticing more little details the more I look at this sculpt. There's some dewiness to the way they've painted the skin. That looks like natural complexion. It only reveals itself at certain angles, but you can see it right there on his forehead. And there's this green tint, this lighter colored skin tone around the edges of the inside parts for his eye sockets, that too looks quite natural. Okay, enough about the head sculpts. I could shoot those things all day, but even right there, just from the nose down, that looks like David Corenswet. Moving on to the outfit. It's a screen printed spandex material with panel line work over the top, a lot of texture, and some darker shading in the crevices and the muscle groups. It's not overdone. The blue is still nice and vibrant. It pops on camera. The red for the S shield is vibrant too. There's some dark shading around it, and even some shading on the yellow sections. The shape of the shoulder pads needs to be refined a touch. The collar as well, I think, but I'm not sure if you can see this. There's some sculpted detail and anatomy continuing underneath the collar. The collarbone is visible through the outfit. That they didn't need to go that hard when it comes to realism, but if you've got this guy in a flight pose and you can see underneath the collar, it's not just going to be bare, unpainted plastic. He's got some serious bulk. I mean, David Corenswet got jacked for this role, and even though this suit wasn't the most flattering outfit on screen, in 1/6 scale, it's tight where it needs to be, yet there is some bagginess, so it looks accurate but flattering at the same time, if you know what I mean. On the sleeves, people were freaking out when INART showed off their first pictures of this prototype because the sleeves sat quite far down. This is the same prototype. All I did was grab the sleeves and push them up. You can adjust. This is a material. This is a spandex outfit. It's stretchy. If you want to push it up even higher, you can do that. But now I think I've got the sleeves at the exact right spot that I want them. But like I said, it's down to personal preference. This is why I love 1/6 scale figures. I don't think we got to see the back of Superman's outfit in this new movie. The screen printed detail work, how it all meets in the middle like that, with the panel lines and whatnot, and the darker shading, it's just interesting from a costuming perspective, seeing all of this stuff. Then that pad thing that he's got around the back of his neck in the movie, that is present underneath the back of the cape. You just need to pull it down to reveal it. I mentioned it in passing. Let's dive in deeper. The cape. This is the drape cape. There is a wired one. We'll try that one out. But you can see it. It just hangs so effortlessly. You don't have to do anything to it. It takes care of itself. Single ply, lightweight, textured, vibrant red fabric. It feels similar to the BVS one, but the red is punchier and we've got the S shield on the back. The pleats, they're pre-baked in, and it tucks into the front of the suit in the exact spot that it's supposed to. It's a little fiddly to get that seated all the way in, but take your time with it, you're going to be fine. Just catching a glimpse of the S shield, how it sits proud of the surface, and it's flexible. Can you see that? It's squishy, so as you articulate soups, this will move around freely. Then the texture is more intense on the S shield and on the inset sections of the belt. Some people were saying that, the INART soups, the belt doesn't even go through the belt loops. It absolutely does. The belt sits through the belt loops front and back, and these strips hanging down the front, they're movie accurate. But check this out. The panel line work on his trunks, it lines up perfectly with the panel line work on his blue undersuit. Even though they're two separate pieces of fabric and you can move them around independently, that stuff is always in alignment. Soups did not skip leg day. The size of these tree trunks, they're bulky. You can see the bulk there. There's even some muscle definition poking through the suit, but it's not overdone. It's not overbearing. The blue is vibrant enough that it drowns out a lot of the detail from a distance. All you really get is the bulk, which is what you want to see. On screen, he didn't have all this muscle definition poking through. But the bottom of the trunks right there, how it curves in and kicks up at an angle, that is not something Hot Toys did. They tucked the trunks underneath his bulge, which looked very strange. But we've got the panel line work on the side of the legs and down here next to his knee pads, which are integrated into the suit. They're not separate pieces. They won't peel off on you. And the boots, you know I love them. In the accessory segment, we discussed the texture and the fine wrinkling and the zip around the back. Flexibility-wise, that's something we'll dive into in the articulation segment. You can already see that they move around. Switching them out for the flight pose boots, I thought it would be more scary than it actually ended up being. The ball joints, this is a prototype, tolerances aren't 100% finalized yet. Even with that being said, super easy. Oh, hell yes, INART. This is what I'm talking about. Flight pose boots. It seems like a simple thing. Seems like something I shouldn't get this excited about, but I am. Not going to apologize for it. For flight poses, even with soups just hovering there, this will sell the pose, and you don't need to put any stress on the material for the boots. They're pre-posed like this. You plug them in. So straightforward, like I already said. Back to the standard boots now. They still look great. Two more things for us to try out though, then we can move on. Wired cape and the flight pole. The flight pole works in the same way as BVS soups. The zipper is inverted. It opens upwards, not downwards. Normally it goes down towards his butt. But anyway, you undo it. Then getting the flight pole in between the suit and behind the belt buckle isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. But once you snap it in place, it locks in there quite securely. There is some play to it, but not enough for him to move around if you've got him posed on it, I don't think. Like, on his own, I mean, he's not just gonna tilt to the side over time. That hasn't happened with my BVS soups. This is the same mechanism they're using for the new Superman, so I've got faith that it is going to work. Switching out the cape for the wired one is a lot more involved than connecting the flight pole, but still, it's not overly challenging. I thought I'd stop midway because, I don't know, I was enamored by the traps and the proportions and the look of the shoulders without the cape on. It's not like they faked any of this stuff and they were relying on the cape to make up for the lack of bulk. It's all there. Now, the mechanism to get the cape plugged in, it's the metal clips. They slide through the suit and then plug directly into the body. It's just the extra versatility, I guess, that you get from the wired cape that's winning me over because you can use the wires to shape it over his bulky traps. We know he's got traps because we just saw them. In the movie, the cape didn't sit this flush over his shoulders. The scene at the end when he crosses his arms, it was sticking out a little. It looked weird in 1/6 scale. That is not a problem with the wired cape. Wires along the edges and the bottom. Even for just standing there stoic poses, this is probably the cape I'm going to be using with my copy of Soups. Just switching back to the drape cape, wanted to confirm how difficult or easy it was. It was involved. Best way I can describe it. It wasn't tricky, but it was involved. They're just steps to getting this piece wedged in properly. You can adjust how it sits over his shoulders. Like I said in the movie, it flared out sort of like this. You can do that. I prefer it sitting flat. Either way, you'll be able to adjust it. For a quick side-by-side comparison, I like them both. Right off the bat, BVS floats my boat, as does the new Superman movie. I think there's room to like both takes. The darker, more gritty approach, Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill. Then the more comic booky, vibrant, color-filled world with David Corenswet and his take on Superman. But in 1/6 scale, they have focused on accuracy because David Corenswet, he's 6'4". He says 6'3", but then the boots might add an inch or two in terms of height, so let's go with 6'4". Henry Cavill, 6'1". Henry Cavill is no slouch in the height department, but David Corenswet is a monster. And as you can see, INART, they got the scaling pretty much bang on. Hot Toys Christopher Reeve Superman. We're all waiting with bated breath for the INART version, because he's going to need to be taller. David Corenswet 6'4", Christopher Reeve 6'4". The Hot Toys one, it's older, it's on a smaller frame body, it's not accurate height-wise. His boots don't have thick soles on them. Still, I don't think they scale well next to each other. But there you go, Robert Pattinson, 6'1", he does have chonky sole boots on. Still shorter than David Corenswet Soups. This is the INART version, scaling looks accurate. Some people have said that they desperately want Robert Pattinson to be the DCU Batman. I don't think that's going to happen in real life, but what's stopping you from doing that in your collection with these 1/6 scale figures? This is what they look like standing next to each other. Going over articulation, tolerances are not final on this, so you might get a little bit more range when this piece comes out. Don't treat this segment as gospel. Starting off with the head sculpt, rubbery neck, double ball peg inside of it, hinging and looking forward to there. looking up to there. Just enough range for a flight pose, combined with the moving eyes shouldn't be a problem. Swivel and some pivot side to side. Arms will go up to there. At the shoulders, you'll need to adjust the outfit when it comes to wrinkling. Going forward to there. Butterfly joint that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep. Double bend at the elbow, going just past 90, but it springs back down a touch. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Torso crunching forward on two separate joints, better than I was expecting actually, given the bulky body, going back to there, way further than forward. Swivel and some pivot side to side. Legs go forward to there, moving pretty freely, even though there's trunks over the top, going out to there. Swivel at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee, going past 90, yep. Then a double ball peg for the ankles inside the flexible boots. Good for forward and back, rotation, heaps of rotation actually, as well as some ankle tilt. Wrapping up on INART, 1/6 scale Superman and Krypto, can't forget about Krypto. Get this, if you are on the fence because you think that the colors aren't vibrant enough and the head sculpt doesn't look enough like David, doesn't give you the same feeling that you got when you saw David on screen as Supes when he was smiling and he was all full of joy. Trust me, this piece, in hand, it oozes personality, it oozes presence, and it screams David Corenswet as Supes. The likeness, the detail, the proportions, the fit, the look, the feel, the texture, the color of the outfit ticks across the board for me. Switch out capes, switch out boots. Krypto's got a wired cape. Yes, Krypto needs a display base. Yes, there's some work to do with the seam underneath the head sculpt. But everything else, if this was a final production piece and they handed it to me right now, I would be over the moon with it. I'm just hoping that I answered enough of your questions to the point where now you feel comfortable making your decision as to whether or not this is going to be your 2025 Supes in the collection. Just before we close out, enormous amount of gratitude for the team over at INART for sending this piece to me so that I could make this video. I didn't think this was ever going to happen, but we made it happen, and now here this piece is. It seriously is a triumph. Y'all did an amazing job with this. Now, if you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button?